Welcome to the Pandemonium Witches podcast, where the ADHD has just a touch of the tism, where the true crime is just as scary as the hauntings and unsolved cases, and the hosts never stay on topic for long. I'm Kat.
I'm Rachel.
We are the Pandemonium. So I fucked up this morning. I mean,
it was a whole bunch of fuckery this morning.
What kind of fuckery is this?
Oh, it's been a week is what it's been.
Listen, okay? So I have those reusable paper towels, right?
Yes.
So probably turn that on vibrate, pleasure mode as my husband calls it.
Vibrate.
So I made those reusable paper towels. My husband was like, oh, just put a line through them. They'll be fine. And I was like, well, when you sew and you're quilting something, you never just want to put a line through it because it's not gonna stay put, you know? And I was like, this is why I quilted yours, because, you know, like when I quilted your quilt, if I would have just not quilted it, everything would have fallen apart. And he's like, oh yeah, that's true. And I was like, okay. So I have to requilt our paper towels because I went to go clean the stove and it got caught on the side of the stove.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Yeah. So, but anyways, so our listeners are probably wondering why we had to cut everything in half. So
we didn't have enough spoons.
Listen,
to get through the rest of it.
You're only allowed a certain amount of spoons every day, man.
I have my emotional support cat.
I have my emotional support coffee. Is that
that's good.
Yeah.
Which you're kind of drinking a little late in the day.
Look, I was sewing those reusable paper towels, just hammering them out. I got 10 of them done. But if you guys ever want to make them, they're super easy. Flannel on one side, bar towel on the other. Flip the fabric so it's inside out. Sew a pocket. Flip the fabric right side out. Fold the the sides.
And then sew that one side.
And then sew that one side and then quilt the whole thing on your machine. Let me tell you.
Yes.
We have paid off a total of 2 credit cards.
Yay! I'm so proud of you guys.
Thank you. I'm very proud. He has no idea because I control the finances. But
that's only because if you didn't, he would be even in worse debt because he has a spending habit. Love him to death, but he swipes first and then thinks.
I do too. It happens.
But you check the budget like 3 times first because threes.
That's true.
And then usually an additional 3 while standing in checkout line just to make sure.
Just to make sure that
because I've been on the phone with you too many times.
Wait, let me make sure. Let me check the balance. Okay, no. Like, I gotta check the balance. So the reason I'm gonna be snacking today, I normally don't eat while we're recording, is because I forgot to eat 2 days in a row. And Rachel got mad at me.
I did.
So congratulations. You get to hear me chew. So last time on the podcast, you heard this. Previously on the Pandemonium Witches, we've had some fucked up family jokes between between all 4 of us, to be honest. Too long didn't raid. Frank committed at least 12 murders in between 67 and 87 in Gloucester. The majority with his second wife. But unfortunately, Funk was always Mama's favorite. So he was seen as Mama's boys and relied mostly on his siblings for companionship. It was his belief that incest was normal and stemmed from his father's incest with his sisters. Sister Kitty was 13 at the time. Told her mother that he had been raping her since the previous December and she was pregnant. Yeah. So he was arrested and admitted to the police that he had been molesting young girls since his early teens and asked, point blank, but doesn't everyone do it? So, we talked about Funk and Thorn, right? Terrible, 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 terrible relationship. This is a Pandemonium Witches podcast trigger warning. The following episode contains graphic violence and gruesome depictions. Listener discretion is advised. Yes, he does.
Absolutely miserable relationship.
Absolutely miserable relationship. And it's one of those things where if the abuse hadn't happened when she was growing up from her birth family, the relationship between her and him probably wouldn't have been there.
Right.
So, the 5 victims were murdered and buried in the cellar at Cromwell Street between November of 73 and April of 75. So that's almost 2 whole years of murders. Which,
It's way too many.
Mm-hmm. Too many slices. The first of the victims was 15-year-old Carol Ann Cooper, who was abducted on November 10th of 73.
Mm-hmm.
Cooper had lived at Pines Children's Home in Worcester. So kind of like orphanages here, they have children's homes there.
Yeah.
She was abducted after spending an evening at the cinema with her boyfriend. So
Hate that.
Oh yeah. So she was waiting for a bus in Warndon when she vanished and was likely dragged into Fred's car, where her face was bound with surgical tape and her arms were bound with a braiding cloth before she was driven to Cromwell Street, which was their home. And then she was suspended from wooden beams in the cellar before...
It just keeps getting worse. I hate this.
Oh yeah. I told you last episode, it's going to get worse.
Hold on, I need my axolotl for this.
Go get it. So there's a funny saying that we talk about on this show. It's gonna get worse. Of course it gets worse. It's one of those things. It's one of those things that we talk about on the show constantly because, you know, yes, things are talked about on that's such a cute axolotl. So yes,
Okay,
things are talked about on other true crime shows, and yes, they go into horrific detail, but we talk about like the mentality and everything else behind it. Like,
it's a lot of fucked mentality.
It is a lot of fucked mentality. So she was hung from the ceiling, the beams, before she was murdered. And for people who are in like, it sounds horrible, for people who are in the scene,
Right.
It's one of those things where even I'm in the scene and I don't hang people from ceilings. I mean, granted, we're also in a rental property, but
if that's part of your scene, that's fine. But it's consensual. That's the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Every party is consensual. This was not.
Mm-mm. So,
and that's what makes it grody.
Oh yeah, 100%. All right, I just paused that. Sorry. So, as with the case of the previous woman that we talked about on the last episode that we ended the episode on, researching this took me 2 months, almost 2 months. This was a lot. This was a lot for me because I'd been a victim of domestic violence when it comes in regards to BD. And so when it comes to that, you know, I had to be reintroduced it very slowly, like very slowly. And so this was a lot. So starting off pretty far in the deep end at the get-go is fine with me because we're going to get some justice this episode.
Yay.
Some good stuff does happen. But as far as the case with Linda, Cooper died from Miss Carol Ann. She died from strangulation and asphyxiation before her body was butchered and buried in a shallow cubic grave in the cellar. So this way they didn't need to leave the house. They had a root cellar under their house.
What's with always burying in the cellars, guys?
Listen, like, I understand reduce, reuse, recycle, but no.
There's a limit, guys.
Mm-hmm. So, over 17 months, 4 other victims between the ages of 15 and 21 suffered an identical fate. Although the destruction of their bodies conducted with each victim's plus the paraphernalia that they discovered in each grave suggested each victim was likely subjected to worse and worse abuse as it went on.
So each victim got worse fates.
Yep. It's like that
I
documentary.
hate it.
Somebody wanted me to cover it and I can't. After doing this, and I started the research on that, I put it in the DNF pile, which is the girl in the box. If you guys have seen the documentary, it's
disgusting.
I could not sleep for 2 nights. And my husband wasn't here. So that was not fun. I couldn't talk to Rachel because Rachel was on a cruise. So I had to talk to one of my friends.
Dealing with doctors, both sisters and Dr. Sister's friends.
Which was a lot of fun. Also, welcome.
Oh yeah, no, I had a blast.
What are the names of the 2 people that just started following? I already forgot.
Christine and Angela.
Welcome in, guys. Beep, beep. It was a lot. So if you guys need me to cover Girl in a Box, I will do it for you, but I won't be able to do it in one fell swoop. Let me just tell you that much.
No, it'll be a multi-parter.
Just like this one does. It was bad. So following the murder of 18-year-old Juanita Mott in April of 75, Funk decided to concrete over the floor of his entire cellar.
Of course, because they were dead murdering people as far as or at least burying them.
Right. But you know as well as I do when it comes to Britain, London, overseas, it gets wet. Yeah. A lot. It's muggy and misty and all sorts of rainy. So
not all the time, but enough of the time.
Enough of the time. So they yeah. Anyways, okay. I'm just going to keep going. So he converted that section of the household into a bedroom. Not for him, not for guests, for his children. And he and his wife.
As fuck.
Yep. He and his wife were, I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but I'm just sitting there going, you want ghosts? Here's some ghosts. Like Exhibit, you know? I heard you like ghosts, man. I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh. I need to have some sort of humor in this, guys. I apologize. So, he and his wife are not known to have committed any extra murders after 75. Okay?
That we know of.
That we know of at this point. Until May of 78, when Funk, with Thorn or without, he murdered an 18-year-old lodger who was staying with them named Shirley Robinson. She had first met Funk at the Green Lantern Cafe in April of 77 and had taken lodgings with them the same month. So she was heavily pregnant at the time of her murder, though. She had, Thorn was also pregnant at the time. She boasted to the neighbors the child Robinson was carrying was her husband's.
Fuck.
Mm-hmm. She soon developed a deep...
She put too much food in her mouth, guys.
Listen, I felt like a chipmunk. Salami's hard, man.
Stick it in the cheeks.
Stick it in the cheeks. So, oh man. I'm sorry. So, she resented, right? She resented her, and she was probably just like, ugh, I hate this bitch. Well, Shirley didn't do anything wrong. She was just pregnant. So, not only having a resentment for Shirley, she was then subsequently murdered. Of course, as the trail of bodies is growing.
And all she was wrong place, wrong time.
Pretty much, yeah. But she was thinking that there was an issue with their relationship and she was the problem. That Shirley was the episode, not the episode, problem. So, of course, because he had already concreted over the floor downstairs, he buried her in the garden.
Because he had to find a new place.
Yep. So, it was extensively butchered, but no restraining devices were found with her remains, making sexual motive for this murder unlikely. The unborn baby had been removed, and several bones from her body were missing. Shortly thereafter, Thorn unsuccessfully submitted a claim for maternity benefit in her name, Shirley's name, with Gloucester Social Services. So she posed as Shirley to get benefits. As earlier, in the case with Charmaine and Linda, our little Funk and Thorn tried to dismay the suspicions of anybody else. So when they asked about Shirley's whereabouts, they claimed that she had relocated. I'll give you a guess. Where do you think they told people she moved to?
I mean, she kind of did relocate to the garden.
Yes, but
it's not what they meant.
No, not what they meant. Not what they meant, Rachel. Not what they meant.
I mean, they weren't lying about it.
No, but they said that
makes it right either.
No, it doesn't make it right at all. But they said that she had moved in with her father in Germany. That's not where she was at all. So, of course,
it was far enough away that nobody would think twice.
Right. So, of course, Funk and Thorn are living their lives. They're happy. They're gay. I mean, ish. And the final murder that Funk and Thorn have known to have committed by police, from what they found, was a 16-year-old named Allison Chambers, who had run away from a local children's home to become the West's live-in nanny in the middle of '79. Chambers was believed to live in their household for several weeks before her murder, and Thorn promised Chambers she could live at a rural, peaceful farm.
Hey, you said it right this time.
Rural. I did. I've been practicing.
Rural. Yes.
Rural. So,
so proud.
Thank you. She claimed that she and her husband, or Thorn and Funk, excuse me. There we go. Because every time I read the passage, it says his given name. I just went through and changed all of the things to Funk.
Good plan.
Thanks. I thought so. Okay. Here we go. So, sorry. No worries. My demon box just went off. What the fuck?
The fact it was like, no worries.
Listen.
And you said nothing to even activate it. That's the crazy
No,
part.
his mom turns it on. She does this shit and it scares the crap out of me. She did it the other night at 1 a.m. And it was like,
can we just do normal working hours, please?
And it was like, the current temperature is 45 degrees. Would you like to be notified if there are any wet? No, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. I want to sleep, damn it.
Bam, banking hours. 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. That's it.
She likes to give me excitement.
No, she likes to give you anxiety.
All right. Where were we? Yes. We were talking about Allison. So Allison, like many others, was thought to have come in as a live-in nanny in the middle of 79, but you and I both know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
So Thorn promised her that she could live on this peaceful farm that Funk and her had supposedly owned, but her body was subsequently buried in the garden as well, close to the bathroom wall. And although Allison was likely butchered, her skeleton was not marked with any striations as the earlier victims were. Which you and I both know it's very, very difficult to, through research, to cut through bone.
Right.
So they probably cut through cartilage,
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't leave any markings.
Because it degrades with time.
In an effort to allay any concerns to her family, which they'd been sending letters written by Allison, Funk and Thorn later posted a letter written by her to the mother prior to the murder from a Northamptonshire post office box, which is way out there. So, of course, now we unfortunately have to go back to the kids, Heather and May. They became the focus of Funk's incestuous sexual attentions after Anna Marie ran away from home in 79 after enduring a particularly severe beating from Thorn to her stomach just days after being discharged from the hospital for treatment from an ectopic pregnancy.
Oh, shit.
I will give you 3 guesses to who the father was. The frequency
Murderer.
The frequency of the abuse endured by the kids increased once they reached puberty. So Funk was overt and unapologetic in his actions and would justify it with the simple explanation, I made you, I can do what I want.
That's fucked up.
Mm-hmm. He further referred to his intentions to impregnate both of his daughters on at least one occasion and would occasionally force all his children to watch pornography with him.
Like, if y'all want to watch porn, that's fine.
That's fine.
If you want to watch porn as a couple, that's fine. But, first of all, not with children. And both parties need to be adults and consenting.
Correct. At my old house, we had pay-per-view and everything like that back in the day when pay-per-view was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Skinamax. We had lock codes on the remotes. So nobody could access it.
Right.
So, I love that. Isn't that Juggy?
It's a hydrofull.
Love that.
But I like it because it's dishwasher safe, but the first time I washed it in the dishwasher or the lid, a side of the hinge for the not the straw side, but the other side, because it's a flip, it broke. So now that side doesn't stay closed.
Oh shit.
I'm gonna have to shampoo the because I have strawberry lemonade water adserts in there. I went to go take it out last night and it fell over and it just started dumping on my driver's seat. So I have towels on it right now.
So, use borax and white vinegar and water.
I will. But I've got like a towel down. I have like some weight on it so that way it will press down into the cushion and hopefully draw the rest of it up. And I plan on going out tonight and seeing what else I can do about it.
We have a coupon, so we're gonna go for a date tonight.
Oh boy.
Because
date night.
We haven't had one since Christmas. I haven't been really feeling like
I know.
wanting to do anything.
And he keeps going away for work.
Listen, I need time. Also, I know for a fact he doesn't listen to our podcast because I asked him. Okay, so I'm going to share this with our listeners.
We can talk all the shit.
We can talk all the shit. Fuck yeah! Hold on. Okay, so I found a seamstress local to me. Um, mm, so I have this beautiful wedding dress that I got for a steal. Okay. So
Yes.
my wedding was almost 2 years ago, and we found my wedding dress. Luckily,
No, it wasn't.
it was almost 2 years ago. We just had our 1 year anniversary.
That
November.
doesn't make it almost 2 years ago.
November, it'll be 2 years. Shut up. So,
Ma'am, it's only January.
so we got engaged the week after the 28th of July. I think it was beginning of August. It was adopted grandma's funeral. Anyways.
Yep.
I had ordered my dress online. One got taken by porch pirates. The other one never showed, and then when it finally showed, it was damaged. I just left it at Emily's. I fixed it, but I left it at Emily's. I was like, you can do whatever you want. She fits it. It fits her beautifully. Fits her like a fucking glove. So I couldn't find a dress. Went to David's Bridal. Don't normally like David's Bridal because they don't carry my size. I'm a 22, 24 sometimes.
Except for this dress.
This dress was the only dress in my size, number one. Number two.
And fits you like a
Fit me like a fucking glove. And number three, it was black. The only black dress they had.
All the requirements.
It ticked all
and it had fucking pockets.
And listen, I pulled my lip gloss out of my pocket, and he went, "They have pockets?" And I was like, "I know." So
I don't know who was more excited about the pockets, him or you.
I know, seriously. And then
I loved it.
I was just enamored with the dress. So about maybe, I want to say 3 or 4 months ago, we were just kind of looking at stuff, and he had said, I really love that dress. And I was like, I love it too. And I was looking through like photos of people who had been redoing their wedding dresses. And I was like, that would be really cool. And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, to like fit it so that way I can wear it to other functions. And he goes, then you could wear it to the military ball. I know you've never been to one, but I know you'd want to. And I was like, I do. And so I found this lady who I'm just like, I just need to get it hemmed. It doesn't need to get horsehair on it or anything. And she's like, oh, okay, well, it's this much. And it's so much cheaper than what it was in Virginia. What the lady told me, $600 in Virginia. And whereas this one is not even close to that. So just got to say, I'm very excited.
I am too. I can't wait to find out his reaction.
I think he's just going to be very, very excited.
Right.
So
100% he is.
Yes.
All right, let's get back on topic.
Back on topic. Sorry. So, that being said, let's go back to the murder. I apologize. So they got pregnant. They had a younger brother. His name is Stephen. So Heather, May, and Stephen are very close in age, and the trio resolved that if their father asked either of the two girls to be alone in the room with him, they would only do so if another member of the trio was present, to avoid either girl being raped or subsequently impregnated.
I mean, it's a great idea.
Right. Sorry, I'm pausing it. Hold on. Yay! Okay, so sorry, I had an ADHD moment.
Okay, so whoever decided to just open my fucking door, then go somewhere else, because I ain't got time for that shit right now.
It wasn't me! It was the one I
know it wasn't you.
Okay, maybe it was George.
Well, they can go somewhere else. Because I had the door latched, and it just popped open, and I was like, really?
So, you and I both know when it comes to showering and using the bathroom, you gotta use it when you have to use it, right?
Right.
Well,
when the body demands.
Both the girls decided they would only do that if their father was not home.
Oh, shit. So they were putting their bodies on a schedule.
Yep. So they would never undress, go to the bathroom, take a shower, anything, if their father was in the house. And if he was, and they couldn't hold it, a sister or brother would stand outside the door, standing guard.
Smart plan, though.
Stephen was also informed by his father that he would have to have sex with his mother by the age of 17. In the event...
I'm sorry, what?
Yes, in the event, his parents evicted him from their home when he was 16. So, yeah, no.
Fucking flowers in the attic shit.
I know. This whole case fucked my head royally. I had to watch Bluey for 2 straight months. You know me.
I don't blame you.
I binge watch SVU for Benson and Stabler. Come on.
I mean, I get that.
Josh asked why Stabler, and I was like, because of the manly thing with the hello. You know, I'm
right.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I can't help it.
And just it's something about his voice. It scratches the brain.
It does tick the brain. So, although the girls were repulsed by their father's behavior, May, having once endured Funk throwing a vacuum cleaner at her when she went against...
And vacuum cleaners back then were heavy and huge as fuck.
They looked like an R2-D2.
Yes.
So, when she went against him trying to fondle her, she like fought him off. She developed a mechanism whereby she would tolerate Funk sexually fondling her, then jokingly brush aside any efforts he would made to take the molestation further. Whereas in her autobiography, she recollected that Heather was affected quite badly by all of this, even more than me. Oh, thank you.
Sorry, guys. We're catching up with Monopoly.
I will pin that for tomorrow. A strong suspicion remains that in 85 or 86, Heather had been forced to engage in intercourse with her father, as by the mid-1980s, she had developed classic symptoms of distress felt by victims of child abuse, including habits of... Are you ready?
No.
Believe it or not, these are founded. I took psychology classes in college. Biting nails until they bleed. Picking at nails until they bleed. Drinking alcohol. Far from binging. Warily watching people through corners of eyes. Making sure your back is standing against the wall. Expressing nervous fragility when in the presence of males. Sleep being repeatedly broken by nightmares, and repeatedly bouncing back and forth as she sat on a chair. These are also common symptoms of ADHD, also common symptoms of STIMs with autism, but hers was so bad that her nails... You remember when my nail was growing back?
Yes.
You remember how small it was? Right there, before I started doing tips? That's how long her nails were. So they were about 2 centimeters to 3 centimeters long.
She had next to nothing.
She had next to nothing. So a lot of people are... They say that this behavior isn't founded, but they did a study in England, and it is in fact founded by several other researchers too. And they found people who weren't using drugs or anything like that, and went and did all these research, and it was fascinating. It was disgusting, but fascinating. So this behavior led Funk and Thorn suspecting that Heather had lesbian inclinations, and also resulted in her becoming increasing recipient of taunts from her father, who never particularly liked her and called her ugly and a bitch.
Yeah, well, she wasn't very fond of him either.
Listen, I wouldn't be either. So Heather responded and told her mother about the abuse, and Thorn would simply laugh at her distress and call her weak. Heather also told May and Stephen, her brother and sister, about her desire to run away from home and live the nomadic lifestyle in the Forest of Dean and never see any human beings again. If you guys don't know what the Forest of Dean is, that's where a lot of it's a derogatory comment, but it's what I found out in my research, where the quote-unquote gypsies live. But that's what they call themselves. That's what they physically call themselves. Also, don't use the term gyp, because that is negating. That's bad. That's bad. So Heather did complain to friends about the abuse that her and her siblings endured, and her external signs, the nail biting, the shaking, the stress, was noted by a lot of them. So staff at her school, at her secondary school, which Heather and her kid siblings attended, also expressed concern as to why Heather, a studious and obedient student, refused to obey orders either to change her clothing or shower after sporting activities with other people.
Because of the abuse in the home.
On one occasion, she was forced to take a shower, resulting in her peers and staff noting her arms, legs, and torso were covered in welts and bruises in various stages of healing. So, of course, she attempted to excuse these injuries and said that they had happened in fights with her siblings, but confided in one close friend that they were inflicted by my parents and that my mom considered me a little bitch who deserved to be beat.
The fuck?
Yeah. By the mid-1980s, rumors of Thorn's sex life had reached several of the classmates of hers. And although the children had been instructed to never divulge details of their home with the lights on, you know what I'm talking about, the little light and the doorbell?
Yep.
Heather confided to one of her friends that these rumors were actually true. And her father, of one of the classmates of the Friends of the Wests, had actually come to the house quite frequently. She confirmed it.
Mm.
As such, word reached Funk and Thorn that Heather had spoken to other classmates.
Mm-hmm.
And that she had said a lot of stuff about her home life and her promiscuousness.
A lot of stuff they wanted to keep quiet.
So Funk was concerned by these revelations that he began to escort her to and from school. So she left school in 86. She's like, fuck this shit, I'm out. I'm gone.
Right.
So by June of the following year, she had raised her hopes, hoping to escape, because she finally got a job as a chalet cleaner at a holiday camp at a seaside town called Torquay. If I mispronounced that, I apologize, but it's Torquay. She received notification that her application had been unsuccessful on June 18th of 87. In response, she fell to tears before her siblings, May and Stephen. Same evening, her whole family heard Heather sobbing aloud as she attempted to sleep. According to May, she cried all the way through the night. So the following morning, June 19th, Heather was back to her usual self. Miserable, hating life, biting her nails, sitting on the couch, bouncing back and forth, and they left to go to school. The kids did. Heather's home. Who else is home?
Frankfurt.
So, May and Stephen come back from school, and they were informed that Heather left to accept the job that she had previously been refused for in Torquay. Story they also told their friends and family that she was gone.
Of course.
Thorn had an inquiring neighbor that she and Heather had a hell of a row, and Heather had run away from home.
Yeah, because that takes away any questions.
Mm-hmm. So, later, to answer their children's questions about why Heather failed to contact them, write them letters or anything, they claimed that Heather had eloped with a lesbian lover and that she had left. So, May and Stephen suggested that they report Heather's disappearance to the police because it was abnormal and out of the ordinary. Funk changed his story yet again, saying that it would be unwise to initiate a search for Heather as she was involved in credit card fraud as well. On more than one occasion, Funk and Thorn persuaded an unknown acquaintance to fake a phone call from Heather to her parents. In the years following her disappearance, Funk occasionally jokingly threatened the children that they would end up in the patio like Heather. Remember that family joke that I was telling you?
Mm-hmm.
That's the joke. That they would always joke and then laugh that Heather was buried out in the patio. So if they
But it wasn't a joke.
It wasn't. So if they misbehaved or told anybody anything.
Oh, you're joining your sister out in the yard.
With Thorne's approval, he later constructed a barbecue pit on top of her.
The fuck?
Right across from where she was buried. He laid a concrete slab on top of her and put a barbecue on the opposite side so they'd be standing on top of Heather's body. Then they put
so many levels of fucked up.
So they put a pine table to sit upon whenever they would have barbecues where she was buried. So barbecue pit, table. So you'd be cooking right here. So Heather's disappearance, they were constantly changing her whereabouts, their foul play. Ultimately, the police were finally called.
Good, finally.
And a search warrant was given to excavate their backyard.
Good.
In May of 92, right. In May of 92, Funk asked his 13-year-old daughter, Louise, which we haven't talked about a lot, to bring some bottles to the room on the first floor of their home. Thorne was not present in the home, and at the time, nobody was really paying attention. Right after, May and Stephen and the other siblings heard, "No, don't." Later, Funk came downstairs, and Louise was found by her siblings writhing in pain, sobbing that her father had done stuff to her.
Essayed her.
Both sides. And she was bleeding on the floor. And at one point he had strangled her.
Ridiculous.
So when Thorne came home, Louise confided in her mother that she had been essayed, and Thorne replied, "Oh well, you must have been asking for it." Yep. So following that, Louise was raped on 3 further occasions. Thorne personally watched one of them.
The fuck?
Before following her into the bathroom and said, "Well, what did you expect? You were asking for it."
No, they weren't.
Nope. They were children. They were not. Funk also decided to film all the occurrences. Several weeks.
He did.
Of course he did, because he's trash.
Because he's disgusting.
That's why his name is Funk. Louise garnered the courage a few weeks later to confide in a close friend what her father had done. This friend had told her own mother what had happened, and this all took place on August 4th. In response, the friend's mother anonymously informed the police, and on August 6th, she's still with her friend. She's still staying at her friend's house. August 6th, the police searched.
The friend's mom's probably like, "The fuck, you're not going back
You're not
to
going
that
back
place."
there. Right, absolutely. That's what I did. You remember I told you I had that kid that was staying with me for like 2 years? That's what happened. I was like, you can stay here.
I'll be damned if you go back to that place.
I will sleep on the couch. You can have my room. So the police searched the West household on the pretext of searching for stolen property. Because they can issue a warrant.
Something.
Right, they can issue a warrant and tell you whatever they're looking for.
Yep.
But the warrant will actually say what it's for, right? So although numerous objects of...
And if they come across other things in their search for it, look what we else turned up.
However, I found out that in England, it's not like America, where if you find it and it's not on the search warrant, you can't take it to court. However, in England, if they find it and they're not looking for it, you can still take it to court. I did not know that.
It's one of the nice things.
I'm done with my coffee. That's sad.
Oh, good. You're going to be up all night now.
Shut up. It's not 2. I can't have caffeine after 2 p.m.
It's only almost noon.
Shh. I've had a handful of salami chips. I'm good. So, although numerous objects of sexual paraphernalia were found, including 99 pornographic videos of both homemade and commercial nature, were discovered, police did not find a video depicting the rape of Miss Louise. The 13-year-old made full statement through a specially trained investigator, describing her father's actions. The fact sexual abuse had began when she was 11, and her mother had been casually indifferent to her suffering. All the children in the household were placed in foster care the very next day.
Yes.
Medical examinations revealed evidence of physical and sexual abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Note.
As they would.
Note: children who have been severely sexually abused have the same pelvic ab formations as a prostitute.
Yeah.
That is disturbing information that I did not need to find out, that I did find out, that I had to wash my brain with Bluey. Also, there's new small mini episodes, and I'm going to be watching that today.
Okay.
You should too, before you go to bed, please. Doctor's
Oh,
orders.
definitely.
Okay. So
Doctor's orders.
the West kids also told their mother that told the police that their mother had done most of the physical abuse, and that
That makes it so much worse.
their father had said if they told anybody what was happening on at home, they would be, quote, buried under the patio like Louise, end quote. Police began a full-scale investigation that very day, eventually leading to Funk being charged with 3 counts of rape, 1 of buggery, and not burglary, buggery, and Thorn as an accomplice. She was also charged with child neglect, child cruelty, inciting her husband to engage in sex with minors, incest, and obstructing the police. When the Wests were questioned as to the whereabouts of their eldest daughter, although Funk claimed Heather was alive and well, Although Funk claimed Heather was alive and well, supporting himself via prostitution, Thorn initially claimed to have no knowledge of Heather's whereabouts or why she had left home. She claimed on August 11th she could, quote-unquote, remember now, and that her daughter had left home under her own persuasion due to Thorn's concerns her children may have discovered Heather's supposed lesbian inclinations. Thorn then added she had also given her daughter 60 pounds to incentivize her to leave the household before further claiming to have maintained sporadic telephone contact with her daughter over the years.
I call bullshit.
Bullshit. Bullshit. So Thorn was granted bail the following day, with the condition she did not maintain contact with her children, her stepdaughter, her husband, prior to the upcoming trial.
Right.
As Funk awaited...
She failed at that, didn't she?
Yeah. So as Funk awaited trial, he was held on remand in Birmingham, not Alabama, England. Learning that her father denied any wrongdoing, Anna Marie also contacted the police to offer a full statement detailing her experiences as a child. In a statement given to...
Good on her.
Good on her. In a statement given to Detective Constable Hazel Savage. Can we just admire that for a moment? Her name is Savage.
And I bet she was a savage.
I bet you she was, because let me tell you, she put it to them. So, Anna Marie recounted her extensive physical, mental, and sexual abuse that she encountered as a child at the hands of her father and stepmother, before agreeing to testify against both parents in their upcoming trial. She also added, Anna Marie also stated that for several years, being unsuccessful at attempting to trace her mother, Rena, and her half-sisters, Charmaine and Heather. Heather is buried under the patio. Charmaine and Rena are where?
In the cellar.
In the cellar. Further inquiries conducted with Anna Marie's husband, Chris Davis, revealed that Heather had confided in him just how unhappy she was shortly before her disappearance, and of her desire to leave home and run very far away. Davis elaborated that although Heather did not divulge any details about enduring sexual abuse, he had been so concerned for her welfare, he had offered to talk to her parents. And she said, for Christ's sake, don't, because they'll kill us all.
I mean, she wasn't wrong.
She wasn't wrong. So, in their efforts to gather more evidence, the police and social services spoke with Anna Mae, who, having spoke to her 13-year-old sister, learned that Louise did not wish her father was charged, initially denied she had endured any molestation as an adolescent because she didn't want anything bad to happen to her.
Because she...
Yeah.
Victim mentality.
Yep. Police then focused their attentions on tracing Heather in efforts to corroborate Anna Marie claims of sexual abuse, but inquiries to Inland Revenue, the Social Security Department, held no records attesting her to be alive or have a job.
Okay.
2 months later, Gloucester Social Services. I had to look up how to pronounce that because I was like, Glock. Anyways, they also contacted police to stress their concern about the whereabouts of Miss Heather. The case
Yeah.
against the Wests collapsed when Anna Marie and her 13-year-old Louise declined to testify in court.
Interesting.
Louise expressed her desire to return back home to her family with her brothers and sisters. Anna Marie chose to withdraw her statement because of her noting the misery of her younger siblings and, quote, her
She
fear.
just wanted it all to go away.
Yeah, because she feared Thorn's vindictiveness. So, of course, after that, Anna Marie spoke further with Savage. I just love that. Spoke with Savage. Further emphasizing that her mother, Rena, and half-sister, Charmaine, were missing and possibly dead. Although the Wests were acquitted of all rape and incest charges, all of their younger children remained in foster care, albeit with permitted supervision visitations, but still. So they told their family and their relatives by 93 that the charges were fabricated by police, that they'd done nothing else, nothing wrong.
Because they just wanted it all.
So, meanwhile, police continued looking for Heather, trying to find her. Anna Marie was questioned again about the the bad family joke. I can't
Whatever that word is.
Whatever. Okay.
Words are hard, guys.
The bad family joke, okay, regarding Heather being buried beneath the patio. She confirmed that the sole time she had heard her father recite this claim, he had immediately burst into laughter, refusing to take the actual story seriously. Is Fluffy okay?
Yeah, she's cleaning her paws.
Oh.
I'm just fucking with her.
In retracing the family history, especially Funk's history, police discovered although Rena and Charmaine had disappeared in 1971, no missing person report was ever filed.
Of course, because why would they file a missing persons report when they already know where she's at?
Right. So the Constable Savage and her colleagues were convinced that Heather was in fact dead. And Funk's repeated statement to his children that her body lay beneath the patio was actually true. On February 23rd of 1994, police applied a search warrant authorizing the search of 25 Cromwell Street to look for her remains. When they visited on the 24th of February and showed the warrant to Thorn, who answered the door, direct quote, she turned pale as a ghost, before becoming hysterical and shouting over her shoulder to her eldest son, Stephen, get Funk. So get Fred. Thorn became contradictory in her informal questioning as to the circumstances surrounding her disappearance, and when reminded of her previous stories, she became distraught and abusive to the constables, shouting, I can't fucking remember. It's a bloody long time ago. What do you think I am? A bloody computer.
Because she'd boxed it all up and
threw away the key.
Mm-hmm.
So Funk had been working in Stroud at the time, and upon hearing about the police's intentions to come and get him, he assured Stephen that he would be home immediately. When Funk arrived 3 hours later, he informed his family his intention to voluntarily offer a witness statement to police regarding his daughter's whereabouts. Despite Funk's insistence in this statement that Heather had been alive and well, albeit involved in the drug cartel, he claims that he and his wife had also made a joke about Heather being buried beneath the family patio as simple rubbish. But police were unswayed. In the response, Funk changed tactics, claiming that he simply held a grudge against them due to the 1993 acquittal of the rape of his daughter. That evening, the search team having left their premises, a uniformed officer remained outside to guard the excavation site.
Right, because they don't want anybody fucking with it.
May and Stephen observed their parents talking in hushed tones as they repeatedly glanced toward the garden from their kitchen window. In the early hours of the following morning, As his son Stephen was about to leave for work, Funk informed him, "Look, son, look after mom and sell the house. I've done something real bad. I want you to go to the papers and make sure and make as much money as you can." Right after that, the police arrived, and Funk indicated his wish to be arrested for Heather's murder and taken to the Bearland police station to provide a full confession. At 11:15 that morning, he formally admitted to the police that he had indeed killed his daughter in an act of manslaughter. He confessed to strangling Heather in a fit of rage and then dismembering her body in the ground floor bathroom with a heavily serrated knife he normally used for cutting slabs of meat for his family's dinner.
Oh my God.
Her remains had been stored in a dustbin as he waited for the opportunity to dig her grave when no one was home. He was insistent that his wife had no knowledge of her daughter's murder, claiming that he had committed this murder as Thorn was preoccupied with one of her clients upstairs.
That still doesn't make it any better.
Adding to the fact that Thorn was, I already said that. Adding to the fact the search team had not yet unearthed her remains was because they had been excavating the wrong section of the garden.
Yeah.
He then volunteered to accompany the police to pinpoint the precise location of Heather's body. So upon getting there, Funk's solicitor, Mr. Howard Ogden, and Janet Leach, informed May and Stephen that their father had confessed to the murder. In response, Stephen slumped against the wall and began sobbing. May entered a state of shock before stammering that her father hadn't killed her sister. The following day, February 26th.
She's still brainwashed.
Right. Police.
And it'll continue till she pulls the body.
Yep. Police began excavating the section of the garden where Funk indicated he had buried his daughter, Heather. Shortly after 4 p.m., police found a human thigh bone protruding through a section of garden Funk had insisted police not look in. This is where it starts to unravel. Excavating the section of the garden where Funk had indicated he had buried, they discovered a massive jumbled human remains encased in the remnants of a bin bag intertwined with 2 lengths of rope. These dismembered remains were taken to the police headquarters for further examination, where they were determined to be those of a young woman with 1 kneecap and several phalanges missing. Her fingernails were discovered in the pile, suggesting they may have been torn from her fingers as a means of torture.
Oh my God.
Several hours later, the body was identified by dental records as being Heather West. That evening, he was formally charged with murder and questioned as to why police also discovered a 3rd thigh bone. Because, you have 2 small leg bones on the bottom, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have 1 big thigh bone.
You only have 2 legs, guys. So 2 thigh bones.
2 thigh bones. And then for the arm, you have 2 here and 1 here.
Right. Same as the legs.
Yes. It's to make it sturdy and strong. You do not have 3 or 4 up top. It's big. Oh no, you have 2 you have 2. Hold on. You have one on each side. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have 4 leg bones on the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 bones up top. Right? Isn't that right? Your leg bone is only 1 bone, I thought. On the bottom. The calf bone? No, it's 2, right? I was right. Listen, it's been a long time since I've taken biology, okay?
Because where it meets your ankle, there's 2 there.
I thought so. I wasn't sure.
Hold on.
You're looking it up. I'm having a piece of salami.
Yeah, there's 2 there.
Okay. So, Funk confessed.
Because it's the tibia and the fibula.
That's right.
So you should have 6 leg bones, not including your kneecaps.
Right.
And then 6 arm bones.
Right.
Because 2, 1.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, hold on. Sorry.
I was like, the tibia and the fibula and the femur. But yes, so they
Yes.
found a third femur.
Yes.
Very out of place.
So they were like, where the fuck did this other thigh bone come from? And he goes, listen.
Let's keep digging.
So he goes, listen, it was from a lesbian named Shirley Robinson who had seduced his daughter. I know. And she was heavily pregnant with his child at the time of the murder. So the other victim he described incorrectly as being Shirley's mate, but either could not or would not elaborate as to her identity because there were two bodies buried in the same thing. So both sets of remains were discovered on the 28th of February, and Funk was charged with both murders 2 days later. So not only his daughter's murder, but 2 other additional murders. So now he's on 3. Okay?
Right.
We have a total of, I think, 6 or 7 missing people. So having discovered 3 sets of human remains in the garden, a decision was made to thoroughly search the whole property.
The cat just farted.
Oh no. Smell the axolotl. Smell the axolotl.
Oh, it smells like death in here now.
Oh. Funny, Frank. He's like, I can fart, make it smell just as bad.
No, I don't.
Ghost farts.
She's already got toxic fumes. Right. I don't need more.
Ghost farts are disgusting, by the way, guys. They can do it. And those who tell you that they can't are lying. So, Thorn was placed in a safe house in a nearby town of Dursley as police commenced their search inside Cromwell Street house. Informed of this fact with several interviews conducted by an investigative team last 16 hours each day as they continued to question Funk and Thorn about Rena and the stepdaughter Charmaine. Funk authorized his solicitor to pass a note he had written to the leader of the murder investigation, Superintendent John Bennett of the Gloucester Police. It said on the 4th of March, I, Funkernick Frederick West, it changed it to Funkernick, I like that, Funkernick West, authorized my solicitor Howard Ogden to advise Superintendent Bennett that I wish to admit further 9 killings, not 7. Expressly, Charmaine, Rena, Lyndon Gow, and others to be identified. Signed, F. West. Questioned further as to his claims, Funk calmly explained that there were 5 bodies buried in a cellar, a 6th body beneath the ground floor bathroom, and most of these victims had been hitchhikers or girls he had murdered in the 70s. Initially, Funk claimed that 6 of the victims had been killed when they had threatened to inform Thorn of his infidelity with these women and that he had transported their bodies to the Cromwell Street to abuse, dismember, and then bury them in shallow graves. As to why he dismembered, it made it easier to bury the remains in shallow graves.
I mean, that does make sense.
Right. Between March 5th and March 8th, police found 6 bodies in total of young females at the Cromwell Street house. Each victim had been tortured and mutilated and bore evidence of extreme sexual abuse prior to being murdered. For example, the 3rd set of remains discovered in the cellar was found with a length of cloth wrapped around its skull and oval adhesive tape, 16 inches or 41 centimeters, in circumference found with the remains that had been likely used to gag. The victim's ankles and wrists were also bound with a large section of rope. This grave, there was also found the serrated meat knife.
Yeah.
Found that in there as well. A 2nd set of remains was found with a section of tubing twisted into a U shape along with her severed limbs, and her skull was found encased in adhesive tape. There is a lot more description in that. I'm going to skip it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I love you far too much to further hurt your mental health. So,
I greatly appreciate it, and I know the listeners will too.
Listen, okay, I know people are saying, but I want the details. Listen, I will.
You can go look it up yourself.
I have the links on every single episode, and you can look them up yourself because I'm done with that. So,
guys, and if for some reason the link is broken, please let us know so we can fix it.
I had a guy named David message me, and he said, look, I tried to get the link, and then somebody else messaged me. I can't remember her name for the life of me. I fixed them. I fixed the links. If the link doesn't work, tell me, and I'll go and fix it. Okay?
Because we can't fix what we don't know is broke.
The more you know. So,
Shooting star.
Shooting star. I love Jack. Despite Funk telling the police that his wife had no knowledge of the murders, they suspected otherwise. Thorn was arrested on April 20th, 1994, initially on offenses related to the rape of an 11-year-old girl and the physical assault of an 8-year-old boy, both charges dating back to the mid-70s. The following day, she was refused bail and transferred to, I love the name of this prison, Puckle Church. I mean, it gets better. Like, this is good stuff. Like, funny names and stuff. So, justice, right? So, she was held in the maximum security wing, which you and I both know means limited time outside, limited time with other prisoners.
Limited everything.
Everything. So, here she was questioned closely about the murders, and particularly those of her daughter, Heather, and Linda Gow. And on the 25th of April, she was formally charged with Gow's murder. So now she's finally seeing some justice, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Funk's in jail, waiting his trial. Thorn's in jail, waiting their trial. So by May 6th, they were jointly charged with 5 counts of murder, and Thorn simply screaming, "I'm innocent," every time they said each formal charge. A response that proved to be a theme throughout each of the 46 interviews investigators held with Thorn prior to her trial. As well as the murders of the victims that they exhumed from the Cromwell Street house, Funk also confessed to the murders of his first wife and stepdaughter, and knowing the location of Anne McFall's remains. Although, he said that he denied killing her.
Of course he did.
So Funk told investigators that he was going to identify each burial location and the remains that were unearthed between April 10th and June 7th. He was then transferred to Birmingham's HM prison, and he was on strict suicide watch, where he was checked every 15 minutes.
Yeah, because they don't want him dead before they can kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Can't kill an already dead man.
Mm-hmm. So they were both brought before the magistrate's court in Gloucester on June 30th of 94. He was charged with 12 murders. She was charged with 9.
Good.
This was the first time the couple had seen each other since Funk's February arrest. Prior to the hearing, formal charges against them, Funk leaned towards his wife and placed a hand on her shoulder. In response, Thorn, having ignored his entire presence in court, winced from his touch.
Love it.
This
So she basically cringed away from him.
Yes. All of the rest of
it.
this, that's why I was fine with moving on from all the gory descriptions, was because of all the good stuff that happens next.
Oh, yes.
All right. Ready?
Yes.
So, as police attempted to lead him from the hearing, he resisted their efforts, again attempting to move towards Thorn, who again winced, and writhered away from his grasp.
At this time, she wants nothing to do
with him. Immediately after court, he was rearrested on suspicion of murdering Anne McFall, whose body had been found on June 7th, but hadn't been officially identified until that date. He was formally charged with her murder on July 3rd, appearing in a court the following morning.
So, another charge.
So now he's on 13 counts of murder. So, he was held in remand at HM Prison. Following his arrest, he became increasingly depressed. Oh, boo-hoo, cry fucking river, bitch. This becomes worse after Thorne's public recognition because in magistrate courts, when it's big stuff, they do have press boxes like they do here in America. So it was all over the that she wanted nothing to do. So it's in black and white. So she refused to reply to letters he sent her, refused to see him, and reports leaked to the press.
Never thought I'd say that.
Huh?
I said, I never thought I'd say that. Good for her.
I know, good for her. Reports leaked to the press in which Thorn had assumed the role of a grieving mother who had lost her daughter and stepdaughter to her husband, in which she declared both her innocence of the murder and her hatred for him. Really? She's just as guilty.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So, Funk pleaded with Stephen and Anna Marie, the only children who were going to visit their father, to convey to Thorn that he loved her forever. And Thorn never acknowledged. She was just like, I don't want to hear it. In response, Funk withdrew his earlier confessions to have acted alone in the murders and insisted accusing his wife to almost doing it with him in all the murders which he had been charged, excluding that of Anne McFall, which he claimed to have committed by his first wife. Initially, strict suicide watch having been relaxed, on January 1st, he tried to asphyxiate himself in the cell by wrapping an improvised rope he had constructed from a blanket and tags he had stolen from prison laundry. So he put this around his neck and then bound the device to the door handle and window, sinking to his knees. At the bottom of the suicide note he found in his cell was a drawing of a gravestone, which was written in lovely memory, Frank West. Or Fred West, excuse me. Thorn West, rest in peace, no shadow falls, in perfect peace, he waits for his Thorn, his wife. At pre-trial proceedings, Thorn pleaded not guilty to 10 charges of murder, the murder of Charmaine West having been added to the original 9 after Funk's suicide, and 2 counts of rape. Oh, he actually did die. I thought he was murdered, but, you know, I did this 2 months ago, okay? I forgot about this part. Thorn's willingness to subject young girls to sadistic physical and sexual abuse said that her counsel conceded to the circumstantial evidence. So, her trial at Winchester Crown Court began on October 3rd of 1995. She was tried before Mr. Justice Mantell. The earlier decision by the judge was to admit testimony related to the sexual mistreatment of 3 women by Funk and Thorn. And by accepting prosecution's argument that it established pattern of behavior, okay? So opening, prosecutor stated that portrayed by the West was sexually obsessed, sadistic murderers, terming the bodies discovered at Cromwell Street and Midland Road secrets more terrible than words can even express. The victims' last moments on earth were as subjects, not as humans, and they were objects of depravity of this woman and her husband. He had also said that Funk was incarcerated when Charmaine West was killed. He was in jail, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Claiming that the Wests had each learned of their mistake and allowing Caroline Owens to live, and said that the gag on the victim for Therese Segenthaler had a feminine touch, a scarf tied in a bow instead of in a knot. He promised to demonstrate Thorn's controlling and sexually sadistic characteristics and her efforts to deflect suspicion about the disappearance of their victims. The witnesses included the lodgers that had stayed at their house that had moved out, victims' relatives, Thorn's mothers, Daisy and sister Glennis, surviving victims including the daughter, Anna Marie West, Catherine Halliday, a former lover of the Wests, Caroline Owens, and Miss A, who was a minor, who had been sexually assaulted at 14 by Funk and Thorn in 1977. She had described Thorn as the aggressive perpetrator of the 2 of them. Neighbors were also called to witness of Charmaine's 71 disappearance while Funk was imprisoned, and Thorn's casual indifference to Heather's disappearance and how she disregarded it. So, the prosecution emphasized Funk, before meeting Thorn, had committed at least one murder, strikingly similar to those issue at the present trial, and that the prosecution's case was largely circumstantial. He contended that Thorn was unaware of the extent of Funk's sadism and urged the jury to not be prejudiced. He had also stated that she was weeping and described herself as a victim of child abuse and rape who, quote, naively married a violent and domineering man, but joked about the issues such as her always being pregnant, and laughed while describing one of the victims' grandfather-like glasses.
She didn't naively do shit.
Nope. She enjoyed it. From all the research I did, which fucked me up even more. So, she claimed to have never met any of the six victims buried at her house on Cromwell Street, and recalled very little of her assault.
All the fucking bullshit.
Right? I smell bullshit. I bullshit.
It smells like a cow farm full of bullshit.
That's a cow farm. There's gonna be cows outside. Also, if you want to, you can send me cow memes. We have a new Facebook page, by the way. If you search it up, the Pandemonium Witches, we actually come up now. So, the more you know. So, when shown the photographs of the victims buried in the cellar and victim Allison Chambers, and asked by Brian Levison whether she recognized any of her faces, she turned bright red and repeatedly stuttered and said, no. Really? She also stated that her and her husband had separate lives and that they never slept in the same room. Right. Okay.
Then how the fuck she keep getting pregnant?
Seriously. Well, from her clients. Remember, she was a pro.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
That's how you get STDs, guys. So,
Practice safe sex, guys.
don't be a fool. Wrap the tool. So, before claiming to the court that her daughter was a lesbian who had physically and psychologically abused her siblings, the court had allowed Thorn to talk. She stated she loved her daughter and had no knowledge of the murder. Aha. Further questioned as to contradictory explanations she and her husband had given about Heather's disappearance, she claimed that these discrepancies had stemmed from telephone conversations she had with Heather after she had left home. So, the defense then called a line of women who have been claimed to have been attacked and assaulted by a lone male whose physical description matched that of her dead husband between 66 and 75. The women each testified, there were 7 of them. They had recognized their attacker as him when his photograph appeared in the media in 94. This was to show the jury that he was, in fact, a murderous man. This goes into detail. I'm going to skip that. Skip that. Skip that. Skip that. Because it's...
Nope.
I'm dead serious. There's like 3 paragraphs where it's just what she did to these people. So after 7 weeks of evidence, the judge instructed the jury in emphasizing that circumstantial evidence can be sufficient in finding guilt, and if 2 people take part in the murder, the law considers the equally guilty regardless of which of them did the deed.
Good.
So 21st and 22nd of November, jury returned with a unanimous guilty verdict.
You get it there.
Guilty verdict for all 10 murders. They had stated that her crimes were appalling and depraved, and Mr. Justice sentenced Rosemary to life in prison, emphasizing she could never be paroled. Initially, she was incarcerated at HMP Bronzefield as a Category A prisoner.
Okay.
Which, that's the one that's, you're only allowed 23 days inside and only allowed 1 hour outside.
Mm-hmm.
She was later transferred to HM Prison Low Newton before, in 2019, being transferred to HM Prison Newhall, where she continues to protest her innocence. That being said, the Wests have been known to have committed at least 12 murders between 67 and 87. Many authors and investigators and journalists have studied the case, believe there are more victims whose bodies have never been found. Prior to him committing suicide, they recorded 108 hours of tape recorded interviews with Funk when he claimed to have acted alone in the commission of the murders, and he attempted to portray his wife as being more of a somewhat applicable participant.
Of course he did.
He also made cryptic hints that he murdered several other girls, but refused to divulge any further information beyond that. He murdered 15-year-old Mary Bastholm in 1968 and buried the body on farmland near Bishop's Cleeve. Sorry. He also claimed to have killed one victim while working on a construction project in Birmingham, and other bodies have been buried in Scotland and Herefordshire.
He just kind of left them wherever he was.
Right. He said to me, "Can you remember helping me dig those holes in the garden when you were a kid?" I said I couldn't remember, but he said, "We did it together, you know." Then he said, "That's where the girls were found, in those holes that you buried." So his son, Stephen, recounting the admission made when his father was on remand to this appropriate adult, Funk claimed that there were up to 20 further victims that he and his wife had killed, not in one place, but spread around the world. And world being England.
Right. Across the country.
He had intended later to reveal the location of one body per year to investigators until they were all found. Funk claimed that he had extensively tortured the victims prior to their murder, but had not raped them, instead engaging in acts. You can finish the rest of the sentence.
Depraved acts.
With dead bodies.
All the disgustingness.
The disgustingness. So, the police later believed that the Wests were responsible for further unsolved murders and disappearances between 71 and 79. So they believe they committed murders, 10 murders in total, 7 of which were for sexual acts. Following a rash of murders between 73 and 75, they think that they actually have 18 other undiscovered victims because they found stuff in their house.
Yeah.
So there is a lot more to this case than I feel comfortable going over at this point because I can already feel my spoons depleting.
Right.
But I do have to say, Funk was cremated in 1995. The only people that attended were his 4 children. It was a 5-minute service. There were no hymns, and the Reverend quoted sections of Psalm 23. Also remember everyone else who have suffered because of his tragic events. Take a moment with our team as we pay tribute to the victims of this ruthless assailant. Mary Jane Bastholm, born March 1952, died January 5th, 1968. Charmaine West, born February 22nd, 1963, died June 20th, 1971. Catherine Bernadette Rena Costello, born April 14th, 1944, died August 1971. Linda Carol Go, born May 1st, 1953, died April 20th, 1973. Carol Ann Cooper, born April 10th, 1948, died November 10th, 1973. Lucy Catherine Partington, born March 4th, 1952, died December 1973. Therese Sigenthaler, born November 27th, 1952, died April 16th, 1974. Shirley Hubbard, born June 26th, 1959, died November 15th, 1974. Juanita Marion Mott, born March 1st, 1957, died April 12, 1975. Shirley Ann Robinson, born October 8, 1959, died May 10, 1978. Allison Jane Chambers, born September 8, 1962, died August 5, 1979. Heather West, born October 17, 1970, died June 19, 1987. Please join us in a moment of silence as we honor the victims. So, Thorn has tried to commit suicide. So has Anne Marie, their daughter. Their house was demolished in October of 96. Every
Good.
piece of debris was destroyed.
Good. As it should be.
By the police.
Good. Because they don't, everything was evidence.
Correct. So the house was known as the House of Horrors, and it was redeveloped into a public pathway and garden.
Good.
So, Funk's younger brother, John, hung himself in the garage of his Gloucester home in November of 96, thinking about his grief because of his brother. 96, Thorn announced her intentions to appeal against her sentence, to no avail. It was rejected in 97. She tried again. They denied her again. Let's see here. The only person to have ever seen her in prison was Anna Marie. And then, let's see here. I think there's one more thing. Okay. So I have one further note. Okay.
Okay.
So Barry West, which was one of Funk's other brothers, took his own life. No, that was the eldest son. Took his own life via OD in October of 2020 at the age of 4. Several years prior to his death, he is known to have battled addiction and was in and out of rehabs and psychiatric facilities as a result of the abuse he witnessed and endured as a child. There are 2 documentaries on the Wests. They are both available online. You can see them on YouTube, Netflix, and Prime. Can I just say how much I hated this case?
Yes.
I told Josh I couldn't watch any true crime. And we do this.
Right.
So that is the story of Fred and Rose West. We hated today.
Yes. Yes, we did.
I
think we'll do Haunted next.
Haunted next? I'm good with Haunted. I'm great with Haunted. Fantastic.
We need a palate cleanser.
We need a palate cleanser. So
I think that's what we're gonna do. Like, we're gonna do like one heavy serial killer and then a couple haunted. That way.
I mean,
just a palate cleanse.
Oh my God.
I think that's gonna be the plan.
I think from now on, I'm going to not do requests. As much as I love you guys, I can't.
We'll take requests.
Yeah.
We'll look into it, and then we'll make the decision on whether or not we cover it or not based on how absolutely horrible it is.
And if it's too horrific, we can do it like we did this one. Like we did with Dahmer and Gacy. And
it just takes a lot, guys.
It does. It really does.
So but, you'll just have to deal with having split up episodes.
Sorry. If you don't like it, get the fuck out.
I mean, if they didn't like it, they wouldn't still be listening.
To be fair.
To be fair.
But as always, stay feral.
Bite the hand, guys, especially in these times. Be extremely feral.
Be extremely feral and bite the hand.
Also, remember your rights.
Yes.
Do not open the door without a warrant signed by a judge.
Yes.
Protect yourselves, protect your friends, protect your family.
Also, if they're saying things, say that you would like to have your lawyer present.
Yes.
And just keep repeating that, because they can't do anything to you unless you have your lawyer.
Exactly.
No means no. It's a complete sentence. Stay feral.
In many forms. Stay safe, guys.
And we'll see you all next time.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. Because the last 2 episodes were a little graphic for people, the team and I have a gift. Our favorite clips from episodes.
Due to their tendency towards eating humans.
I beg your finest pardon.
Fuck yeah, concrete.
And takes a perverse pleasure in terrorizing people.
I, too, take a perverse pleasure in terrorizing people.
Oh god, that was a lot of words. You came straight out with the cannibalism. Like, right a fucking way.
You have something wrong with your head. Lobotomy. You have something wrong with your head. Electroshock therapy.
And chest. And drink the men's blood dry.
Fuck yeah. Feminism.
No! Stay feral.
Bite the hand, guys.
And we'll see you guys next time. Don't forget to tune in next week for more chaotic and autism ADHD fueled content.